This video, Trayvon Martin questioning George Zimmerman from the grave, will be in two parts. The first part will be in response to my previously posted video on YouTube, I Trust George Zimmerman to Speak for Trayvon Martin. The second part, I will assume the role of Trayvon Martin questioning George Zimmerman. So to remove any ambiguities about my position in this trial, or in this case, let me make it very, very clear. I do not believe that George Zimmerman had any intent to do any bodily harm to Trayvon Martin. And I don't believe that the evidence supports a second-degree murder charge. But someone did die, and someone must pay the consequences of that action. I believe that this was a sad, silly, stupid, unfortunate travesty. This was a generational and cultural clash precipitated by the stubborn naivete of George Zimmerman. I say this not as a black man, but as an American who happens to be black. I love my people, I love my country, and I would give my life in defense of both. And I don't see why I have to choose one over the other. But more than anything, I believe in truth, fairness, and justice. America cannot afford the backlash of this trial. Cannot afford it. Now, to respond to those people who have answered my previous video, who say that I'm being assumptive and I'm assuming things that are not in record, and also that this is a theory, let me reply. I'm not assuming anything. In my previous video, I quoted and reacted to what George Zimmerman said. He said it. I replied, I related to you. Now, in regard to this being a theory, let me introduce you to me, Cashears, and try to bring about my credibility. For 4.5 years, I voluntarily moved into the middle of 5 housing projects in Watts, California. I want to be close to the welfare mothers, the children at risk, and the gang members. I put together 7 two-day gang truces as I raised $23,000 to bury 7 black youth killed by gun violence. Then I did something that no one else in the history of America has ever done before. I convinced LA gang members to voluntarily come to a public forum, guns in their hands, as faces shown, their names, turning their guns and jobs to me. But the greed, deception, betrayal of USA Today not only destroyed the program, but it endangered my life. Now, this is the battle that we'll fight at another time, but I wanted you to know this because I want you to know 95% of all the people who responded to this first video were people looking from the outside in. If you check me out, Google me. Let's go to USA Today, February 16, 1993, front page. Guns put LA on edge. February 17th, 1993, USA Today. Guns for jobs lure some gang members. I was there with them. I'm from the inside out. So I'm not guessing what Trayvon Martin would have done. I'm telling you exactly what he'd done because I lived with them for 4.5 years. They're the same guys. It doesn't matter whether they're in Miami, Florida, whether they're in Atlanta, Georgia, D.C., Baltimore, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Detroit, Chicago, Texas, St. Louis, Kansas City, Milwaukee, or California. They're all the same. They're members of that hip-hop, gangster rap, gang generation. On guard, aggressive, in your face, don't back down. Always got to prove their manhood. Live in constant fear because they don't know when or where their dues will come. But they know it's coming. They're on edge. So I pray that that suffices in answering the first video. Now, I'm going to assume the part of Trayvon Martin coming from the grave to address and question George Zimmerman. I want you to close your eyes and give me some creative license and allow me to paint the picture. This is Trayvon Martin coming back to question George Zimmerman. George, hold up, George. Do you remember me, George? Trayvon Martin. Well, we didn't get a chance to really meet each other the first time, and we weren't together that long, George, because remember, the first time we met, it ended kind of bad for me, George. You killed me, George. You remember that? Yeah, George, you killed me. Now, George, now, something been bothering me, George, Where I've been since you killed me, George, I haven't been able to rest right. My mother's praying, my father's praying, my friends are praying. And they're telling me stuff that's happening up here, George. You know what they're telling me, George? They're telling me that you are standing on the stand your ground law of Florida, saying that you acted in self-defense when you killed me. Come on, George. George, now, you and I know. They don't know, but you and I know, George. That's not true, George. George, see if you can remember this, George. George, I was walking through the housing complex to visit my father. I was eating my little Skittles or whatever I had. It was raining, it was cold, it was dark. And I looked up and I saw you, George. And I looked at you and you started coming at me. Now remember, George, now, I tried to run away. I ran away, George. I tried to dodge you. I ran in between buildings. I went all over the place, and you kept coming, George. And I'm saying to myself, why is this man coming at me? I mean, I've done nothing to you. I'm running, George, for 4.5, 5 minutes. You tracked me, you stalked me, you pursued me, George, and I tried to avoid any type of confrontation with you. But after a while, George, my manhood came in. I stopped running. I said, I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to find out, why is this man in pursuit of me? What did I do? Now remember something, George. My adrenaline is high, it's flowing. I'm on edge. I'm in heightened alert. And I don't like you, George, because you didn't follow me. You are my perceived enemy. But I want to ask you, why are you following me? And in the middle of me getting ready to ask you these questions, George, you reach in your pocket. Now, George, you are my enemy. Now, I'm taking this to mean that you're reaching for a weapon, George, to do me some harm. So I have to protect myself, George. So I'll bust you down, man. And I'm beating you, George. I'm beating you. I'm pummeling you, George. I'm beating you. But you ain't taking it like a man because I'm too strong for you, George. So what do, George? You reach for your gun. And you shoot me and you kill me. That's what happened, George. I got to say something to you before I go back to where I'm going, George. I stopped running. I stood up like a man. And it cost me my life. Now I'm telling you, you stop running. Stop hiding behind stand your ground law and stand up like a man. And pay the consequences for your action. But that's a question I want to ask you, George. I want you to tell this question to the world. How can you, the pursuer, the tracker, the stalker, and I, the person who's trying to evade and avoid, how can you be standing your ground? No, George, it didn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way. Now let's come back to reality now. I'm Cashears now. This is sad. 2 lost lives. I say to you, this is a sad, silly, stupid, unfortunate tragedy. This is a generational and cultural clash precipitated by the stubborn naivete of George Zimmerman. I say stubborn because the 911 operators advised George, do not continue this pursuit. But as stubborn as he was, he continued anyway. His naivete, because there's no way that George Zimmerman could have imagined that his innocent move, and I do believe that he innocently reached for his cell phone. There's no way that he could have imagined that that innocent move would provoke an explosive response that would end in the loss of life and cause so much pain. There are no winners here. There are no winners. So as Trayvon asked George Zimmerman to stand up like a man and pay for his actions. However much he pays, I don't know. But his actions precipitated this death. I'm asking the prosecutor, George Zimmerman, Trayvon's family, the American people, to collectively come together and stop this. America does not need this. And I want all of you to ask anybody that you know this question. How can the stalker, the tracker, the pursuer claim that he's standing his ground? It don't make sense. It didn't happen like that. As I said before, there are no winners here. There are no winners. America needs a healing. Let's do this. I love you. And one more thing. I believe that George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin both could have been my sons. I love them both. There are no winners here. Talk to me and let me know what you think.